The daughter with Alzheimer never remembered anything, until the garbage man spoke to her, and Robert Collins watched his 8-year-old daughter through the living room window, feeling his heart tighten with every empty movement she made in the backyard. Emily didn't play like other children anymore, didn't smile like before, and worst of all, she hardly remembered anything from one day to the next. That's when the garbage truck stopped in front of the house, and the sanitation worker in an orange uniform got out to collect the bags. Emily, who had been still like a doll until then, suddenly lifted her head and walked toward the gate. The doctor had been clear about the diagnosis. After the accident that took his wife Jennifer 6 months ago, Emily developed a rare type of traumatic amnesia that affected her ability to form new memories. The specialists in Denver said she might never be the same again. "Good morning, Princess," said the sanitation worker, taking off his orange cap and giving a small bow. Emily stopped at the gate and looked at him curiously. It was the first time in months that Robert had seen his daughter show genuine interest in anything. You know me?" asked Emily, her voice fragile like a whisper. "Of course I know you. You're Emily, the smartest girl on this whole street," the man replied with a kind smile. Robert felt something strange in his chest. How did that stranger know his daughter's name? He had never seen that sanitation worker before, he was sure of it. "Daddy!" shouted Emily, running back to the house. "The man from the truck knows my name." It was the first time she had remembered something from one encounter to the next since the accident. Robert ran down the stairs, his heart racing between hope and suspicion. When he reached the gate, the sanitation worker was already climbing back into the truck. Robert called out to him, "Hey, wait a minute!" The man stopped and turned around. He had a tan complexion, was about 35 years old, with a well-groomed beard and kind eyes. He wore the impeccable uniform of the Urban Cleaning Company. "Yes, sir. How do you know my daughter?" The sanitation worker hesitated for a moment, looking from Robert to Emily, who was watching everything from behind her father's legs. "My name is Michael Johnson. I've worked this route for 3 years. I always greet the children on the street," he said, putting his cap back on. "Your daughter has always been very polite to me, but she has memory problems. She shouldn't remember you." Michael looked at Emily with an expression that Robert couldn't decipher. There was something there that seemed deeper than a simple greeting between strangers. "Sometimes we remember the most important things, even when everything seems lost," Michael said softly. May I stop by tomorrow to see how she's doing?" Robert was confused, but there was something in that man's sincerity that put him at ease. "Of course, please." That night, for the first time in months, Emily asked a question about something that had happened during the day. "Daddy, who was that man in the orange clothes?" "A friend, Emily. A friend." The next morning, Robert woke up earlier and made a strong coffee. He had spent the night thinking about the strange encounter from the day before. How could Emily remember Michael if she could barely remember what she had for lunch? At 8 o'clock sharp, the truck stopped again in front of the house. This time, Emily ran to the gate before Robert even noticed. "You came back!" she shouted, clapping her hands. Michael got out of the truck with an even bigger smile than the day before. "I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" he said, crouching down to her eye level. "I brought something for you." He pulled from his pocket a small origami butterfly made with colorful paper. "Wow, how beautiful!" Emily took the butterfly delicately. "How did you make this?" "It's a special secret. I can teach you if you want." Robert watched everything with a heavy heart. Emily hadn't shown interest in anything since the accident, and now there she was, talking naturally with that stranger. "Michael," called Robert, "do you have a few minutes to talk?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The sanitation worker looked at the truck driver, who waved, confirming he could wait. "Of course, Mr. Collins. How do you know my name?" Michael averted his gaze for a moment. "Emily told me a few months ago." "A few months ago?" Robert felt a chill. Before or after the accident? The silence that followed was heavy. Emily continued playing with the paper butterfly, unaware of the tension building between the two men. "Mr. Collins, can we speak in private?" Robert asked Emily to go inside and led Michael to the porch. The sanitation worker removed his cap and ran his hand through his hair, clearly nervous. "I knew your wife, sir." Robert's world stopped. Jennifer had passed away 6 months ago in the car accident that also caused Emily's trauma. Nobody spoke about her in front of the girl, following medical advice. "What do you mean?" "Mrs. Jennifer always waited for the garbage truck to pass. She would talk to me, ask about my family. She was a very good person." Michael spoke softly, respectfully. "Emily was always with her. They both greeted me every day." Robert felt his legs weaken. He had focused so much on taking care of Emily after the loss that he had never asked about the small details of the routine Jennifer maintained with their daughter. "Jennifer never told me she talked with the sanitation workers on our street. She said you work a lot, leave early and come home late. She didn't want to bother you with these small things." It was true. Robert had spent the last 2 years intensely dedicated to the accounting office, trying to expand the business. Jennifer took care of everything at home, including the special moments with Emily. After the accident, Emily stopped appearing at the window. "I asked the neighbors and found out what had happened," continued Michael. "I decided to stop greeting her to avoid causing more confusion. But yesterday when she came to the gate, you thought she was remembering. I thought that maybe, somehow, a part of her was still there." Robert looked through the window and saw Emily sitting on the sofa, still holding the paper butterfly. "The doctors said she might never form new memories properly again. The trauma was very severe. With all due respect, Mr. B. Collins, but I'm not a doctor. I only know that yesterday she remembered my name, and today she remembered that I promised to come back." There was truth in those simple words. Robert took a deep breath. Could you keep coming here? Maybe talk with her?" "It would be an honor, sir." In the following days, the house's routine gained a new rhythm. Every morning at 8 o'clock, Michael would stop the truck and spend a few minutes talking with Emily. He brought more origami, taught her how to make some, told simple stories about the places he visited during his work. The most impressive thing was that Emily began to remember these conversations. Not everything, but small fragments stuck in her memory like seeds planted in fertile soil. A week later, Robert decided to call Dr. William Stevens, the neurologist following Emily's case. "Doctor, my daughter is showing some improvements." "What kind of improvements, Robert?" "She's managing to form some new memories." "Small things, but consistent." "That's interesting. Did you change anything in her routine? New medications, therapies?" Robert hesitated. How could he explain that a kind sanitation worker seemed to be doing more for his daughter than months of specialized treatment? "Not exactly. She made a new friend." "Bring her in for an appointment next week. I want to examine this progress." That afternoon, Robert decided to observe the interaction between Emily and Michael more closely. He hid behind the living room curtain while the two talked in the backyard. "Emily, do you remember what we talked about yesterday?" asked Michael, sitting on the step. "You said you were going to bring me a surprise," she replied, her eyes shining. "That's right." He pulled out a small bracelet made of colorful beads from his pocket. "My daughter Olivia made this for you." Robert felt a jolt. Michael had a daughter? "How old is she?" asked Emily, examining the bracelet. 12 years old. She used to go to the same school as you." "Used to?" "Now she studies in another city, but she always liked you very much." Emily put on the bracelet and twisted her wrist to see how it looked. "Michael, why can't I remember some things?" The question took everyone by surprise. Robert held his breath behind the curtain. "Sometimes our mind gets tired and needs to rest a bit," Michael replied carefully. "But the most important things, those we never truly forget." "Like what?" "Like the love your mother had for you, like the love your father has for you. These things stay stored here." He gently touched Emily's chest, and here, he touched her forehead. Emily stayed silent for a moment, processing the words. "Michael, did you know my mother?" Robert held his breath. It was the first time Emily had mentioned Jennifer spontaneously since the accident. "Yes, I did. She was very special. Always told me you were the most important thing in her life. I have a little memory of her, but it's like a dream that goes away." "Dreams don't go away, Emily. They just wait for the right moment to return. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. Michael's words echoed in his mind. There was something more to this whole story, he was sure. The next day, he decided to investigate. During lunch, he made some calls to the city sanitation department. He discovered that Michael Johnson had worked there for 5 years, had an excellent reputation, and had indeed requested a route transfer a few weeks after Jennifer's accident. Even more intrigued, Robert decided to ask the neighbors. Mrs. Thompson, who lived next door, confirmed that Jennifer really talked daily with the sanitation worker. "Your wife was very sociable, Robert, talked with everyone. Michael even brought his daughter a few times to play with Emily," told the 68-year-old lady. The girls became friends very quickly. His daughter? Olivia. Beautiful, polite girl. Went to St. Elizabeth School, same as Emily. Robert felt he was on the path to discovering something important. The next day he went to St. Elizabeth School and talked with the secretary. Olivia Johnson. Of course I remember her. Exemplary student. Her father was always very present, attended every meeting, said the woman, consulting some files. She transferred mid-last year. Why? Family problems, if I'm not mistaken. Her father said they were moving. Robert left the school with more questions than answers. Why hadn't Michael mentioned that the girls were friends? Why had Olivia transferred? And why did all this seem connected to Jennifer's accident? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. This really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. That afternoon, Robert decided to confront Michael directly. When the sanitation worker arrived for his daily chat with Emily, Robert called him aside for a private conversation. "Michael, I need you to be honest with me. You haven't told me the whole truth about your relationship with my family." The man sighed deeply and looked at Emily, who was playing in the yard. "You're right, sir. There are things I haven't told you. Like the fact that your daughter and Emily are friends. Olivia and Emily were inseparable. They played together every afternoon, did homework together. Jennifer looked after both of them when I was running late from work." Robert felt a pang in his chest, another part of Emily's life that he knew nothing about. "Where is Olivia now?" Michael looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "She's living with my ex-wife in Fort Collins." "Why?" "Because I couldn't take proper care of her anymore after the accident." "What accident, Michael?" The silence that followed was heavy. Michael ran his hand over his face, as if gathering courage to speak. "Mr. Collins, I was working on the street the day your wife, the day of the accident." Robert's world stopped again. He felt his legs weaken. "What do you mean?" "I saw it all happen. I was collecting trash 3 houses down from yours when I heard the crash. I ran to help." Robert sat down heavily on the stairstep, trying to process the information. "Were Jennifer and Emily going to school?" "No, sir. They were coming back. Emily had forgotten a project at home, and Mrs. Jennifer went back to get it. I had just spoken with both of them about 5 minutes before." You saw the accident happen?" "I saw the car lose control. It was a drunk driver. I ran to help, got Emily out of the car. She was conscious, but in shock. Mrs. Jennifer..." Michael's voice broke. Robert felt tears burning his eyes. No one had ever told him these details. The family had decided to spare Emily and him from traumatic information. "Why did you never tell me this?" "Because Emily didn't remember me. The doctors said it might be better that way. That memories of the accident could worsen the trauma. But now she's remembering. Only the good things, Mr. Collins. She remembers our friendship, the games, the origami, but not the accident." Robert fell silent, trying to understand the full complexity of the situation. "Did Olivia see the accident too?" "No, thank God. She was at school. But later she started having nightmares, became afraid to leave the house. She started blaming herself, saying if she hadn't forgotten the project, none of this would have happened. The project was hers? Yes, a science project she and Emily were doing together. Jennifer went back to get it because Olivia was nervous at school. The guilt Michael carried was written all over his face. Robert began to understand why he had distanced himself, why he had sent his daughter away, why he had dedicated himself so much to helping Emily. You blame yourself for the accident. If I hadn't let Olivia forget the project at your house, if I had gone to get the project myself, Jennifer wouldn't have needed to go back. Michael, that wasn't your fault, nor Olivia's. I know that in my head, Mr. Collins, but the heart is another story. The two men fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts and guilt. Emily appeared at the door, still wearing the bracelet Olivia had made. "Michael, are you leaving?" she asked, worried. "No, Princess. I was just talking with your father." Robert looked at Emily and made a decision that would change everything. "Emily, would you like to talk to Olivia?" Emily's eyes lit up. "The girl who made my bracelet? She's my friend?" Robert looked at Michael, who seemed surprised by the suggestion. "She was your best friend," said Robert, "and still is." That night, Robert called Michael. "I want you to bring Olivia back." "Mr. Collins, I'm not sure that's a good idea. Emily is getting better because she's recovering important parts of her life. Olivia was one of those important parts. But what if she remembers the accident? What if seeing Olivia brings back the bad memories? What if it doesn't? What if it only brings back the good memories of their friendship?" Michael stayed silent for a long moment. "My ex-wife won't accept this easily. She thinks I'm to blame for Olivia being traumatized. But does Olivia want to come back? She asks about Emily every week, wants to know if she's doing better." "Then let's try, Michael, for our children." Over the weekend, Michael traveled to Fort Collins. Robert used the time to prepare Emily psychologically. "Emily, remember we talked about your friend Olivia? The one who made my bracelet." "That's right. She's going to come visit us." "When?" "Soon. Do you want to see her?" Emily hesitated for a moment, as if something important was trying to form in her mind. I think I miss her, but I don't know why. Sometimes the heart remembers things the mind has forgotten." On Monday, Michael didn't show up at the usual time. Emily grew worried, walking to the gate several times to see if the truck was coming. "Daddy, where's Michael?" "He's taking care of something important. He'll be back soon." On Tuesday, the truck stopped in front of the house, but there was something different. Michael got out, accompanied by a 12-year-old girl with brown hair and big eyes like her mother's. Emily was in the yard when she saw the girl. For a moment, she stood frozen. Then slowly she began walking toward the gate. "Emily?" said Olivia timidly. "Olivia?" replied Emily, her voice full of uncertainty. The two girls looked at each other for a long moment. Then, something magical happened. Emily smiled, a genuine and complete smile that Robert hadn't seen in months. "You came back," shouted Emily, running to hug her friend. Olivia began to cry, hugging Emily tightly. "I missed you so much," said Olivia. "I thought you wouldn't remember me anymore. I didn't remember. But now I do. I remember playing with you, doing homework together." Emily stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. Robert and Michael exchanged worried glances. "Emily?" called Robert. "I remember Mommy taking us to school. I remember her singing in the car. I remember—" Tears began to stream down Emily's face. "I remember she always said she loved me." It was the first time since the accident that Emily had cried consciously for Jennifer. Robert approached and hugged her along with Olivia. "Daddy, why did I stop remembering Mommy?" Sometimes when something very sad happens, our mind tries to protect us by making us forget. But love never goes away, Emily. It just waits for the right moment to return. Olivia looked at Emily with eyes still full of tears. "Emily, you're not mad at me." "Why?" "Because I forgot the project at your house. If I hadn't forgotten..." Emily looked at her friend without fully understanding, but there was something in her heart that made her grasp the importance of that moment. "Olivia, you're my friend. Friends don't get mad at each other over things like that." Robert watched Michael discreetly wiping his eyes. There were two children teaching the adults about forgiveness and unconditional love. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. In the following weeks, life took on a completely new shape. Olivia moved back in with her father, and the two girls resumed their friendship as if no time had passed. Emily continued recovering memories gradually, always the good ones, always those that brought love and joy. Dr. William Stevens was impressed with the progress of the case. "Robert, this is extraordinary. Emily is consistently forming new memories and still selectively recovering old ones. How is this possible, Doctor? The human brain is more complex than anything we can imagine. Trauma can block memories, but strong emotional connections can unlock them. Love, friendship, the feeling of security, these are powerful remedies. So she's going to be okay. She'll still need follow-up care, but yes, Robert, your daughter is going to be fine." That night, Robert sat in Emily's room for their nightly bedtime conversation. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Is Mommy in heaven?" Robert took a deep breath. It was the first time Emily had asked a direct question about losing Jennifer. "Yes, Emily, Mommy is in heaven. But does she still love me?" "She loves you more than anything in the world, and she always will." Emily stayed silent for a moment. "Daddy, do you love me too?" "More than anything in the universe, Emily." "Then I don't need to be afraid of forgetting again, right? Because love always comes back." Robert felt his heart fill with a peace he hadn't felt in months. "That's right, sweetheart. Love always comes back." 3 months later, Emily had regained almost all her cognitive abilities. She returned to school, resumed playing, made new friends. But her friendship with Olivia remained special, as did her relationship with Michael. Every morning at 8 o'clock, the truck still stopped in front of the house, but now it was just for a warm greeting, a new origami, a quick chat about the day ahead. Robert discovered things about Jennifer he had never known. Through conversations with Michael and Olivia, he learned aspects of his wife's personality that his overwork hadn't allowed him to see. She really did talk to all the neighbors, knew every family's story on the street, quietly helped those in need. "That's just how she was," Mrs. Thompson shared one afternoon. "Always concerned about everyone. When Mr. Jenkins got sick, she brought him soup every day. When Barbara's daughter lost her job, Jennifer got her a position at her sister's store." Robert began to understand why Emily had become so attached to Michael. He represented the continuity of the love that Jennifer had spread throughout the world. 1 year after their first meeting at the gate, Robert organized a surprise party for Olivia and Emily. It was both friends' birthday in the same month, and he wanted to celebrate not just another year of life, but Emily's recovery and Olivia's courage in coming back home. The whole street was invited. Mrs. Thompson made little sweets. Mr. Wilson played guitar. Children played in the backyard that was once silent. "Daddy," said Emily, approaching Robert during the party, "can I tell you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. I remember Mommy now. I remember everything, even the day she left." Robert felt his heart race. It was the first time Emily had mentioned the accident directly. "And how do you feel remembering that?" "Sad, but also happy." "Why?" "Because I remember she told me she loved me right before we left the house. And I remember that when everything was dark and confusing, Michael held me and said everything would be okay. And it was." Robert hugged his daughter, moved. "Mommy would be so proud to see how you've grown, Emily." "Daddy, can I ask for something?" "Anything you want." "Can we visit Mommy tomorrow? I want to tell her about Olivia coming back and about Michael's origami." It was the first time Emily had expressed a desire to visit Jennifer's grave. Robert had avoided taking her, afraid of triggering trauma. "Are you sure?" "I am. I want her to know that I'm doing well, that I haven't forgotten her. I was just keeping the memories in a safe place in my heart." The next day, Robert, Emily, Michael, and Olivia went together to the cemetery. Emily brought an origami butterfly she had learned to make and placed it on Jennifer's grave. "Hi, Mommy. I brought my friends for you to meet," Emily said naturally. "Michael is that good man you always said existed in the world, and Olivia is still my best friend." Michael approached the grave and spoke softly. "Mrs. Jennifer, you can rest easy. I'll always take care of Emily. as if she were my daughter too. Olivia placed a flower next to the butterfly. Thank you for taking care of me too, Aunt Jennifer, and for teaching Emily to be such a special friend. Robert watched everything with a full heart. There stood the most important people in the new life they had built together, a family born from pain, but sustained by love. 2 years later, Emily had completely recovered. The doctors considered hers an extraordinary case of overcoming. She became one of the best students in school, maintained a solid friendship with Olivia, and treated Michael like a second father. Robert had learned to better balance work and family. He reduced his office hours and became actively involved in Emily's life. He knew all the neighbors on the street, knew the names of his daughter's classmates, attended every school meeting. Michael continued working as a sanitation worker, but now also taught origami classes for children at the neighborhood community center. Olivia helped him, teaching the younger children. "Daddy," Emily said one morning during breakfast, "I think I know what I want to be when I grow up." "What?" "I want to help children who forget things like I forgot. I want to be a doctor, but a doctor who uses the heart to heal, not just medicine." Robert smiled, remembering Jennifer's words about Emily being special. "I think you'd be a wonderful doctor." "And you, Daddy? Are you happy now?" Robert looked out the window and saw Michael arriving with the truck. Olivia came running from the house next door to greet Emily before school. Mrs. Thompson waved from the window. It was an ordinary morning on an ordinary street, but full of love and mutual care. "I'm very happy, Emily, very happy indeed." "Then Mommy is happy in heaven too, right?" "I'm sure she is." Emily finished her breakfast and ran to the gate, where Olivia was already waiting. The two chatted animatedly with Michael, who has always had an interesting story or a new origami to share. Robert watched the scene and thought about how life sometimes surprises us. He had lost Jennifer, had almost lost Emily to trauma, but had gained an extended family he never imagined possible. Love really always returns, he thought, sometimes in ways we never expect, through people we never imagined, but it always returns. And so on the quiet street of a small town in Colorado, a rebuilt family went about its daily routine, proving that the truest miracles are those that happen in everyday life, when good people meet and decide to care for one another. The origami butterfly that Emily had learned to make remained her favorite symbol. She said butterflies were special because they showed that it's possible to transform and fly, even after spending a long time in the dark. "Memories are like butterflies," she explained to Olivia one day. "Sometimes they stay hidden in the cocoon of our heart, but when they find enough love, they come flying out and fill our lives with color." And that was how the girl who had forgotten everything taught everyone around her about the true nature of love and memory. It's not the perfect memories that define us, but the ability to find beauty and connection even in the most difficult moments. End of story. So what did you think of this touching story about Emily and Michael Johnson? Leave in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you know someone who, like Emily, found healing through the love of special people. Your opinion is very important to us. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will touch your heart.